The soul becomes stronger by solitude. Marcus Aurelius: loneliness is not the enemy you think it is the doorway you keep avoiding, the silence you keep running from, the mirror you refuse to look into because you're afraid of what you'll see. You believe that loneliness means something is wrong with you, that being alone is a sign of weakness, failure, rejection, or inadequacy, but the truth is much harder to face. Most people fear loneliness because it exposes the truth they've spent their whole lives distracting themselves from. People stay in bad relationships to avoid it, drown themselves in constant noise to escape it, chase crowds and attention to silence it, and shape-shift into personalities they don't recognize just to avoid the discomfort of being alone with their own mind. But the Stoics understood something modern people have forgotten: solitude is power. Solitude is the training ground where identity is forged, where clarity appears, where inner strength develops, where illusions die, where the false self dissolves, where the real self emerges. Loneliness is not emptiness, it is space. Space for truth. Space for direction. Space for transformation. The reason loneliness feels painful is because you have built your identity on external noise. When the noise disappears, the identity collapses, and what you feel is the collapse, not the loneliness. You believe you need people to feel whole, but what you really need is yourself. You chase conversations, distractions, relationships, social approval, anything to avoid sitting with the raw version of yourself, the one without filters, without validation, without applause. Loneliness is not the absence of people, it is the absence of escape. And that is why it feels unbearable. It forces you to confront everything you've been avoiding. Your fears. Your wounds. Your failures. Your wasted potential. Your unmade decisions. Your real desires. Your real weaknesses. Your real strength. Loneliness exposes the life you're pretending not to see. That is its power, and its pain. The people who fear loneliness the most are often the ones most disconnected from themselves. They cling to others not out of love, but out of fear, fear of silence, fear of reflection, fear of not being enough on their own. The Stoics warned about this dependence. They wrote that a person who cannot stand alone is not free. Because if your peace depends on others, your peace can be taken from you. If your happiness depends on others, your happiness can be stolen. If your self-worth depends on others, your identity is not yours. Loneliness is the forge where independence is built. But here is the deeper truth. The reason someone always seems stronger than you is because they have spent more time alone than you. Solitude sharpens. Solitude hardens. Solitude strengthens. In solitude, people learn discipline. They learn focus. They learn self-respect. They learn clarity. They learn resilience. They learn to become their own source of validation. They learn to act without applause. They learn to keep going without encouragement. They learn to trust themselves. And you cannot compete with someone who has learned these things. You think they have some secret advantage, some hidden confidence, some natural ability, but often they simply spent lonely nights building what you try to get from others. Solitude builds what comfort destroys. The modern world teaches you the opposite. It convinces you that connection must be constant, that loneliness is dangerous, that silence means something is wrong, that solitude equals sadness. But constant connection weakens you. You become dependent on dopamine, on attention, on distraction, on noise. You forget how to sit, breathe, think, exist without stimulation. You forget the strength hidden inside silence. The Stoics often retreated into solitude not because they disliked people, but because they understood that inner strength can only be built away from the crowd. People who avoid loneliness avoid becoming powerful. People who embrace it become unshakable. But loneliness does something else, something brutal and necessary. It reveals the truth about the people around you. When you stop always being available, you see who notices. When you stop entertaining others, you see who values you. When you stop people-pleasing, you see who disappears. When you stop performing, you see who really knows you. Solitude unearths the relationships built on convenience, not loyalty. Loneliness strips away illusions about who is truly in your life. But here is the paradox: the moment you become comfortable alone, the right people appear. Not because you need them, but because you finally stop chasing the wrong ones. Solitude raises your standards. Loneliness cleans your life. And yet, most people never let solitude transform them. They panic the moment silence arrives. They numb themselves instantly. They scroll to escape a thought. They text someone to avoid being with themselves. They chase people who don't care. They fill their schedule to avoid their soul. But the Stoics taught that the thing you avoid the most often holds the key you need the most. Loneliness is that key. It teaches you self-reliance. It teaches you emotional independence. It teaches you identity. It teaches you that you do not need the world to validate your existence. Loneliness reveals that you were stronger than you assumed, you just never gave yourself the chance to see it. And here is the truth that hurts the most: you fear loneliness not because you are weak, but because you sense how powerful it will force you to become. Because when you stand alone, you no longer have excuses. No audience to blame. No distractions to hide behind. No relationships to collapse into. No noise to drown in. Just you, and the life you must build. Loneliness forces growth. Growth forces identity. Identity forces strength. And strength forces destiny. Loneliness becomes your greatest weapon the moment you stop running from it and start using it, because solitude is not a punishment, it is a sharp blade, and its edge cuts away everything in you that is weak, dishonest, dependent, or afraid. When you sit in silence long enough, you start seeing truth clearly, the truth about who you are, the truth about who you've been pretending to be, the truth about the life you want versus the life you tolerate, the truth about the habits that drain you and the desires you've buried, the truth about the future you fear and the past you still drag behind you. Loneliness forces honesty. And honesty is the birthplace of strength. You cannot lie to yourself when no one is around to believe the lie. When you remove the noise of the world, you remove the excuses. You remove the distractions. You remove the illusions. You remove the stories you tell yourself to feel safe. And what remains is the raw version of you, the one you've been avoiding but the one you need to become. But here is what loneliness teaches you that nothing else can: you are the only constant in your life. People will come. People will go. Some will betray you. Some will forget you. Some will outgrow you. Some will drift away. Some will stay only as long as they need something. Some will love you only when you're easy to love. But you remain. Your mind remains. Your choices remain. Your effort remains. Your discipline remains. Your future remains. And when you embrace loneliness, you stop begging the world for stability and create it for yourself. That is why solitude is sacred in Stoicism, because it is the training ground where you learn to become whole without depending on the unstable, inconsistent approval of other people. But solitude does something even deeper: it excises weakness. It strips away the comfort that keeps you soft. It removes the counterfeit confidence you get from crowds. It exposes the fear you hide behind social noise. It shows you the truth about your discipline, your habits, your courage, your resilience. When you are alone, you cannot outsource strength. You cannot borrow motivation. You cannot hide behind others' momentum. You must build your own. You must become the source instead of the seeker. And this is where people either rise, or break. Because solitude eliminates excuses. If you are undisciplined, solitude exposes it. If you are unfocused, solitude magnifies it. If you are insecure, solitude reveals it. If you are lost, solitude forces you to acknowledge it. And in that exposure, most people panic. They run back to noise, back to crowds, back to comfort, back to someone else's life, anything to avoid facing themselves. They blame loneliness for the pain, when the pain is simply the truth coming to the surface. But if you stay, if you endure the discomfort, if you sit with your inner chaos long enough, something miraculous happens. The chaos turns into clarity. The fear turns into direction. The discomfort turns into power. This is the transformation solitude offers, the transformation you miss when you run from it. Over time, loneliness stops feeling like emptiness and starts feeling like ownership. You begin to enjoy your own company. You begin to respect your own mind. You begin to trust your own judgment. You begin to feel safe in your own presence. You begin to build habits without needing praise. You begin to make decisions without asking permission. You begin to move forward without needing encouragement. You become whole. And when you become whole, the world loses its power over you. You stop chasing people because you no longer fear being alone. You stop begging for love because you already know your worth. You stop tolerating disrespect because solitude taught you that being alone is better than being mistreated. You stop competing with others because you finally understand that your path is yours alone. You stop performing because you no longer need an audience. You stop pretending because your truth is finally strong enough to stand on its own. That is the real power of loneliness. It makes you untouchable. Someone who is afraid of being alone can be controlled. Someone who is afraid of silence can be manipulated. Someone who is afraid of judgment can be pushed into conformity. But someone who is comfortable in solitude, someone who is at peace with their own mind, someone who needs nothing from the world to feel whole, that person is free. Free from craving. Free from approval. Free from desperation. Free from noise. Free from dependency. When you master loneliness, you master life. And something else happens, something paradoxical. The moment you no longer need people, the right people begin to appear. Because your strength attracts strength. Your clarity attracts clarity. Your independence attracts mature relationships. Your boundaries repel those who want to use you. Your confidence repels those who want to control you. Your solitude filters your life better than any advice ever could. Loneliness does not just build strength, it builds quality. It rebuilds your world with only the people who deserve to be in it. And here is the final truth, the one the Stoics knew well: loneliness is not a curse, it is initiation. Every strong person has walked through the fire of solitude. Every wise person has embraced the quiet seasons. Every disciplined mind has been forged in isolation. Every powerful soul has endured nights where the only company was their own thoughts. Loneliness is the threshold between who you are and who you must become. If you cross it, you rise. If you avoid it, you remain half-formed. And one day, when you look back, you will realize that the moments you felt most alone were the moments that built you. Not the praise. Not the attention. Not the relationships. Not the applause. The silence. The long nights. The unanswered questions. The days with no support. The hours where no one believed in you but yourself. That is where strength was born. That is where your real identity formed. That is where your destiny began. And in the end, you will understand, loneliness never tried to break you, it tried to introduce you to yourself.